Hello. Now today I thought we'd just create some faux embellishments. They end up looking a little bit like distressed metal, but they are quite light, so if you want to add them to projects they aren't as heavy as a piece that is proper metal would be of this size. This one I made quite a long time ago in a physical class I held, and it was very popular. Today I'm going to do some smaller ones. This is just one. This is a fail, which I will explain later. So you can do all sorts of things. My initial idea was to create fake wax seals. I'm not entirely sure if they look like wax seals, so I went off on a tangent, but I'll explain as I go. What you need is, you need hot glue gun. This is one from my floristry days. It is exceptionally hot. It's an industrial one, and it burns you very quickly, so you've got to be very careful. You can get hobby ones which don't get as hot. I would recommend those because the glue actually cools down a lot quicker, which is better, and you aren't as likely to injure yourself with them. But this is the one that I've got on hand, so I'm going to use that. The others tend to be slightly smaller as well. You'll need some stamps, which I've got quite a few to show you. Let's have a look. This one is a number 8, and it is out of, it's a darkroom door set of stamps, and it's a collage background stamp. Sorry for the rustling. And it comes in a sheet. I actually wanted to use the little circle elements separately, so I cut them all out and I mounted them so that I can use them individually. I can still create a background with them, but I can put the elements where I want to choose them. I've had it quite a long time, but I absolutely love it. There's only one number, but there are some patterned ones as well which you could experiment with. I've also got a number 31, which is a red rubber stamp. The darkroom doors are red rubber stamps. This somebody gave me, or I bought off somebody, but I haven't got the packaging. I took it off, so I'm afraid I can't tell you what stamp that is. I've also got some little wood mounted stamps. These are just very cheap ones from the Works. That's a discount craft store in the UK. They're wood mounted, they come in a little tub, and you get either numbers or alphabets. They're a square. Now I'm not sure if this is actually rubber, but it works, so that's fine. I've dug out some numbers as well. So the first thing I tend to do when I'm starting is I get a piece of paper. You don't need to measure or anything with this, as long as it's bigger than your stamp, because I find it easier to stamp the image onto the paper. The paper's quite a thick paper, probably 180 GSM. Not printer paper, because when you'll see later why it needs to be a little bit thicker, but it's just thicker printer paper. I ink my stamp up just with Ranger Archival ink and stamp it. Now you will see why I do that. It's easier to get the right size of glue. I'm not going to bother clean off my stamp, because if that ink comes into my impression, I don't mind. I'm working on this very grubby non-stick mat, just in case I get glue where I shouldn't, because it's easier to get it off there. I'm going to need a new glue stick shortly, but I'll start with this, and I'm going to pour or squeeze the glue out on top of the stamped area on my paper. Might just about get this one out of here. Just need a little bit more. when I was trying to make it into a fake wax seal, I did actually try to make it as round as possible, but I need a little more practice. I've got some air bubbles, so I'm just using a cocktail stick just to burst them. It doesn't matter unless they're sort of on the surface like these are. If you can see that they're fairly well down, don't worry. And then this is very, very hot glue, as I say, because it's an industrial glue gun. With the cooler ones, you have to be a bit quicker. With this, I don't mind if it just takes a little bit longer. I'll let it just cool down a little before I press. And then I'm going to press my rubber stamp into the centre of my glue. Oh, there and about. Now, I don't know if you can see here, there's my acrylic block, the mount to the stamp, and then the stamp, and I'm not letting the glue go past the rubber. It's stopped just short of the mount, because you don't want to get glue onto your mount of your stamp. It'll come off the rubber, but it won't come off the mount. This one, with it being so hot, I'm going to leave it for a little while to set. I'm going to set it aside. I've got a couple somewhere that I've done before. Right. Yeah, this is one of the little wood mounted ones, and you'll see that has come out of there. It's quite easy to get them out. You've just got to be a little bit gentle so you don't damage your stamp. So I get hold of the paper and the glue and just start at one corner and ease it away. Now, with these not actually being rubber, and I've left it a little bit too long, it's actually come off its block. See if I can get it out. Yeah, it's coming out. So this just goes to show you can still rescue things. So I'll have to stick the stamp back onto its little wooden block. But it has come out in one piece, so that will stick back on there quite easily. And as you can see, it hasn't damaged the stamp, even though it's come off its block. Usually I don't leave them as long before I take them off. But I wanted to have one that was set so I could show you the next step. So that's left the impression. This is the ink that was on the edge of the stamp before. We don't worry about that, because the next step is to paint it with black gesso. So I've got Art Basics, which is a Prima brand, heavy gesso, and it's black. So, paintbrush, and basically you work it into all the little cracks and crevices in the centre. You might get a little bit of white paper showing through if your stamp's gone right down to the centre. Try and leave as little in the indentation as you can, but make sure it's covered. That's got one coat. I tend to give most of mine 2 coats just to make sure they're absolutely covered. So I'll set that aside to dry. Put my paintbrush in water. Get rid of the gesso. And then I've got one of the number 8s, like this one that I've just done. Now there's 2 options now. I use wax quite often. This one was done with waxes. These 2 were done with Deco Art Metallic Luster. I think I actually like the waxes better because I just find it easier. So we'll go with, let's see, old silver. It's getting a bit tired, is this? It got left in the conservatory in my bureau and it's dried it out a little, but it's still usable. So I just get a bit on my finger and I'm basically just going to go all over. Don't forget the sides as well, and I haven't forgot that it's on paper, don't worry. There we are. Now if you wanted a little bit more in there, you could just get a little bit of the wax on a cotton bud and work it in if you wanted to. I actually like it so that it shows a bit of the black, because then it looks like dirty metal, distressed and dirty metal. So I'll pop that away. I've actually got this X as well. So we'll do that in another colour so that you can see. This is rich copper. So you see, it gives a completely different look. I love the silver with the black, and I also like it when I do it with gold. But you can mix the colours. So if you wanted to do a little bit of gold on top of the silver, you can. And that gives it a slightly different look as well. You could put gold on top of the copper and have a bit more like a rose gold. So there's lots of options, and as I say, you can put gold paint on by dry brushing it on as well. This is dry. No, that's not dry enough yet. So now you've got them finished or nearly finished, all I do is gently, I start at one point in the circle and go around. And this is why you need a bit heavier paper, because I just peel the paper off. Now you think, why has she left the paper on? Paper sticks to paper with glue a lot easier than just the glue, the hot glue. It gives it a little bit more texture to adhere to, and I find that they just stick better, and I can just use my PVA. If you've got any roughed edges that you don't like, just sand it down slightly. If you've got any little bits that you think, oh, I haven't got black gesso on there, get a bit on your finger, just cover it over, and it's done. So that makes quite a nice little embellishment, an industrial one. You could say it looks a bit like a faux seal, I don't know, but I like them. I think they're really cute. Now this one was created the same way as this or these, but when I'd got to this stage I thought, oh, it's got a bit too much round there. So I took the backing off, and all these steps are best done when the glue is just set, sort of when it's solid and not going to be tacky at all. But before it is, don't leave it a day and then try and do everything, because it's not as easy, because it's a lot more solid. This one, I think I've got a blob there. I'm not quite so keen. So because I'm doing it when it's still a little flexible, I can cut off, going very close to the edge, but leaving just a little border. I can cut those off. Then all I need to do is put a little bit of black gesso on there, which I can do with my finger. There we are. Then I'll set that aside to dry, and that's a little square embellishment. And you could actually spell a word out. You have to leave a little bit of a gap between because the glue rises up, but you can do it if you're not too heavy-handed and just push the stamp in slightly. So I'll just get rid of those. So there's the silver one, that was created the same way as this one. This is one which is a circular one. Let's see, I think this is possibly ready to take out now. Yeah, it just peels out. I work my way around the edge first. There we are, that's out, that's a little bit surplus. So when that was gessoed and done like this, it'll look just as nice, but I'll leave it on the paper because it's easier to get into the edges if it's on the piece of paper as well. So I hope you find that useful, and I hope you give it a go. I'd love to see what you create.